Hey YouTube, what's up? Scarecrow Kaiser. I am going to today do a deck profile on my Blaster Legend deck. I guess it's a way to call it. It's mostly just a Blaster deck. But yeah, so deck came out yesterday. Took it to a tournament yesterday. Um, I came in second. Uh, I won my first few rounds, 3 or 4 rounds, whatever it was, without having to go to game three. Um, I played it. Then the last few rounds were the hardest ones because I had to play against Kaguro and Gear Chronicle, and because of their G guards, it's a really hard matchup for this deck. Um, Up until we get Gansalot in like 3 months, but pretty hard matchups, especially Gears because their deck's good. Plus they have the good G guard, but and then my matchup against Gears, they had to deal with the G guard, and I just had bad luck overall. I, ha- I I'll talk about that maybe later, but let's get to the deck profile. So starting Vanguard, Wingle Brave. He's like I have like no doubt that he's the best starter for this deck. He's just way too good. Um, because of him, you get to play like a really cool ratio in this deck. There's so much about this card that's good, um, that I'll probably talk about in a little bit. For the triggers, for Flogel, and then I'm playing also 5 other crits for a total of 9. Then I play 3 draws. Um, the draws were the trigger that I was not so certain about how I wanted to do. Like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to just play 2 of it. I didn't want to play 4. I feel like 4 is too much. 3 seemed to work okay. Sometimes I thought I might want another crit, but 3 ran like pretty well yesterday, so I might stick to that. I might actually go down to 2, but it seemed to work pretty well yesterday. And then last 4 heals, obviously. So for the grade 3s, there's only one. 4 Blaster Blade Exceed. The only grade 3 you need in this deck. Because of Wingle Brave, all you gotta do is get one of your Vanguard attacks to hit, use Wingle Brave, go grab your grade 3. You're good to go the rest of the game. Every time you stride, if you need Stride Fire for next turn, you can go grab one. If not, you go grab whatever other blaster piece it is you need. Plus, the cool thing about this guy is also that you can use him early game just to keep rushing and pop field. He's a really good card, actually. I like him a lot. For the grade 2 lineup, we of course have 4 Blaster Blades. And on top of that, we also play 2 Blaster Spirits. So we have 6 grade Blaster grade 2 targets. So usually you can almost always ride a Blaster unit turn 2. Obviously, it's a little bit better to ride Spirit since you'll be a 10k. But so it's really good. If you're not playing the Spirit, I highly suggest you do. He works really well. Other than being a Vanguard ride, you can just use them with Alfred and so many other things in the deck. Yep. Next, I only played 3 Lu. I didn't think that's what I would end up doing, honestly. It's not for lack of like having another Lu. It's just it didn't like turn out to be as good as I thought he would be. He seemed like an obvious 4-of, but after playing it, the thing about it is this deck is so heavily reliant on utilizing your Blaster Blade. You can burn through them like kind of quickly during the course of a game, and like you'll be drawing them, damaging them, searching them out. You run out of Blaster Blades pretty quickly, so it doesn't take much before this guy just doesn't have an effect that you can actually utilize. And even when you can utilize them often, like actually it's better if I just go for the Alfred play and give my Blaster Blade a drive check. So he's definitely good, but I decided not to play 4, just 3. It seemed to be working better for me. And my last grade 2 is I play 4 Benon. This card is so good early game. This might be a little more excessive than some people would think, but I just want to have this card early game, and this deck is really good at early game. I mean, we're only playing 4 grade 3s and 13 2s here. Between him, the Blasters, Lou, like this deck has excellent early game. So this guy gives you early game like aggression as well as some draw power and deck thinning. Benon is a freaking amazing card. Yeah. That's another thing about this deck with only the 4 grade 3s and Wingle as the starter and all these grade 2s is when I was playing people, they were like when I was playing the Gear Chronicle player, he's like, even if if I make you go first, he's like, you won't really care because you can just keep writing grade 2s and like force me into a grade 2 game. He's like, I guess I might as well go first because it's not that big a deal, I guess, if you stride because you're just gonna grade 2 game me anyways. And that's one of the great things about this deck. Onto the grade 1s. 4 damage and flipping perfect guards. This deck is very counterblast heavy. Like when they earlier this week showed us the new Lake Maiden perfect guard, I was like, that's cool, but I'd probably still rather countercharge. This deck is extremely counterblast heavy. Next, play 4 Stride Father. I feel like you really should probably play 4. If you play less, you're gonna have a hard time striding sometimes. Although you have like the ability to search out 3s, sometimes you don't want to search out a 3. You just want to go get a Blaster Blade to do what you need. So it's easier just having these. So I would suggest playing 4. Then we got 4 Blaster Friend Barkle. This card is so necessary in this deck. As I said, this deck is very counterblast heavy, so you need every chance to countercharge that you get. As well as he works with Lou, and yeah, he's when you ride him turn 1 and boost him with Wingle, it makes Wingle's effect live. Next to play 3 Richard, because Benon and free draws. And my last grade 1 spot, I'm playing 1 Pat Gal, because as I've said several times already, this deck is very counterblast heavy. Soul isn't that hard to manage. We are playing Richard and we are playing Pat Gal, and we do have a grade 4 that can Soul Blast, but we don't utilize that card that often, and usually the counterblast is more important. And this card's only a tech card, so we're not heavily gonna be relying on it. It's just there sometimes to use. So, and Lou and Wingle move the soul too. So that is it for the main deck. Under the G zone, first I've got 4 Religious Soul Savior. Or not 4, 3. 3 you might find, why are you playing 3? That's a really odd number. The Blaster Blade Exceed needs you to stride into a Saver Vanguard, and often when you go for your first stride, you'll actually just stride you need to stride a Saver card just so you can utilize the on stride skill. Unfortunately, that often means your first stride will not do anything. It'll just be a vanilla. You're just using it for setup play, but that's what I found was helpful. So there's 2 so that I can actually use this card, and this card can be pretty helpful. The hard part about it though is getting 2 blasters in the soul. If you don't ride Friend Blaster Barkle on your first ride, it makes it a lot more difficult to get there. you'll have to like stay on grade 2 like an extra turn or something like that. But it's still like really helpful when you can use it. So 3 might seem odd, but hopefully you understand my reasoning behind that now that I've explained it. Then I play 1 Myriad Soul Savior. Don't use this card a lot, but like there was like 1 or 2 games where I did use it last night where just the power it distributed was so like huge to the field that it ended the game. The most difficult part about this card is the setup, trying to get to the soul. Next, the best grade 4 in the deck, Alfred. This card is really cool. The things he makes your Blaster Blade do, really excellent. This card is really good. But as I said, playing against Kagero and then Gear Chronicle was really difficult. The Kagero player, he like never was drive checking his heals. He was just like getting draw triggers off and then like secretly adding it to his hand, so I didn't know they were there. Like I shouldn't have had to go to game 3 against him. I like won game 1. Game 2, he G guarded everything I did and I couldn't do anything. Then game 3, it should have been like that, but he misplayed and used up all of his counterblast trying to board wipe me, and was totally not worth it, not being able to denial Griffin in exchange for just popping my field. And I got him that game by forcing him, by attacking with the rear guard Blaster Blade to make sure it got strive check off so he couldn't take damage and then have the counterblast available. But Alfred, very good card. Then I play 2 Altmile. He's very good. He doesn't counterblast. The downside is he's not a savior, but this card gets used quite often. I'm only playing the 2 because he's just there for the utility, and I don't want to like play too many of them. I feel like I would probably almost never use the second pair, but he's still very good for the fact that he tutors out whatever you need and powers up your field. That 3K actually goes a long way. My last G unit spot, this is going to seem really bad, but I'm playing 1 Galahad, or Gobblade, I mean. Yeah, this card is not a good card, but I actually do like it in this deck. I know that sounds contradictory. I'm trying to tell you that this card should be in the deck, but I don't think it's good. It does have its places sometimes, though. As I've said, this deck is very counterblast heavy, so you don't always have counterblast available, or sometimes resources or whatever. And there are some situations where you're just not in a particularly good spot, and this card can actually be a good option to go into. So that's why we play him. For the G zone, 1 Laser Guard, 2 E-Salute. E-Salute is like really strong for what she's a big shield. The downside to her is the counterblast, and I'm actually really considering I'm probably going to take out 1 and put in the other G Guard who gets plus 10 shield if you have 2 grade 2s. That one's hard to maintain often, but the counterblast of E-Salute is also hard to maintain. But I would at least play 1 because she's an excellent card. But I'm probably going to change her out for that guy. I have no idea what that guy's name by memory. So I also played 1 Dismal, just because it's like generic and it can be really helpful in certain situations and protect the rear guard. And my last spot went to 1 Screw because it can be helpful. It's a big generic shield. Yeah. So that's it for this deck profile. Some comments on the deck is the deck is really like consistent, super consistent. Even with like 4 grade 3s, the way the deck's built, like I never had a problem getting a grade 3. Actually, when I played against that gear player last round, I mentioned I had bad luck. Like I somehow, like, game one, I drew like 3 out of 4 of my grade threes before I was even at grade three. It was my opponent after I got doing my grade three turn. It's my opponent's turn. I have 6 cards in hand. 4 of them are perfect guards. One of them's a grade three. I'm like, ugh, this is awful. I try to do a Lou play. He G guards, sends my Lou back. Exchange, I get a heal. It was awful. Then I got him game two. And game three, um, I play 16 ones, I think it is, in this deck, and 13 twos. My opening hand, I couldn't get a grade one somehow, even though I have 16 of them. I had to G assist for a grade one, and ugh, they can't. It was close. It was a good match overall, though. But as I said, the Gear Chronicle matchup is really hard right now because of Head Around. Head Around like really messes up this deck's plays. But when we get Ganslot, like that card's amazing. That card can make this deck like really good. So, but thank you guys for watching.